could be coming for the Minnesota Vikings any second now, as reports are coming out that Minnesota is looking to trade up with Washington to land that number 2 pick in this upcoming year's NFL draft. What's going on, guys? My name is Patrick Siepman. Welcome to the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. As on today's show, I think the Vikings are seriously considering sending an overwhelming haul to the Washington Commanders so they ensure they get their quarterback in this year's NFL draft. This was a report coming in from USA Today. We'll dive into that, and I'll dive into why I do believe that the Vikings could be possibly going all in on Drake Maye, because we have heard reports that they obviously view him as their kind of number 1 prospect in this year's draft class. So why I think it makes sense for the Vikings to be in love with Maye, and then also why I just really do believe the Vikings are going to be doing whatever it takes to make sure the North Carolina quarterback ends up in Minnesota. But before we dive into that, guys, we're actually less than 100 subscribers away from 23,000 here on the channel. First off, just thank you guys to everybody who's tuned in with me throughout this kind of crazy draft process through the offseason so far. It's been a whirlwind. We've heard a ton of different reports, and I still feel like we are only a couple kind of moves away from the Vikings really having a top 5 pick in this year's draft class. So if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, lock us in. If we get any more reports, no matter the time, no matter the day, I will make a video for you guys breaking it down, giving you guys my thoughts, and just thank you to everybody who's hit that sub button so far. But enough of that, let's dive into the report. So this was coming in from Bob Donnan. He's connected to the Washington Commanders, and he works for USA Today, and this is what he said. He says, the Minnesota Vikings are rumored to be interested in trading up with Washington Commanders to select quarterback Drake Maye. And when I heard this report, it kind of almost seconded the thought that I had actually yesterday. So I was just chopping it up with Nick Roloff. Nick Roloff runs our Patriots channel here at Chat Sports, and we were just overall talking about like what a trade package could look like between the Vikings and the Patriots and where they could find common ground. And we were just chopping it up, and then we got to the point where we were talking about the Washington Commanders at number 2, and we were saying if the Vikings do like Drake Maye that much, why would they risk him falling, or why would they risk the Commanders potentially taking him and then the Vikings trading up to 3, and maybe they like Jaden Daniels, they like J.J. McCarthy, but they don't love them like we know the Vikings love Drake Maye. So why wouldn't they just go all the way up to number 2 overall? So then we started connecting some dots here, and if you guys kind of have been following this NFL offseason, there hasn't been a lot of reports of the Commanders seriously loving a quarterback. We heard a report like a couple months ago, it feels like, that they really like Jaden Daniels. But besides that, we haven't really heard too much from the quarterback front in Washington. They did just trade away Sam Howell to the Seattle Seahawks, but they also did bring in Marcus Mariota. So I still believe that Washington, they want to draft a quarterback in this year's draft class. But let's just say Minnesota calls them and they say, we'll give you 11, 23, a 2025 first-round pick, and then maybe a 2025 fifth-round pick for a Washington team that needs a more complete roster, that maybe they believe that if they get a rookie quarterback in there right now, they don't have the right support system around him, and maybe he would just end up fizzling out. Like, if I'm Washington here, I would consider that, because you can still, let's just say Washington does this. They get 11, 23, and a first-round pick from Minnesota, and maybe some extra first-round or extra draft capital in the future. They could still package 11 and 23 and move up to 6 to still get a guy, or move up to 5 to still get a guy in this year's draft class, and just still have another first-round pick for next season. And, you may be saying, why wouldn't the Vikings just do that? Why wouldn't the Vikings just trade 11, 23, and then move up to, the 4th or 5th pick in this year's draft class? Well, we've gotten reports that I really do believe this. The Vikings are all in on Drake Maye, and I honestly don't blame them at all. The more I've been going through this draft process and just really looking at fits for quarterbacks, because when I'm kind of evaluating these quarterbacks, I'm not evaluating them on just how they will be in the NFL. I'm valuing them on how they will be with the Minnesota Vikings. And I honestly believe this. Drake Maye might be by far number 2 for me right now. I think Caleb Williams, obviously he's going to Chicago now that they just traded Fields to Pittsburgh yesterday. But number 2 for me by far would be Drake Maye. Just seeing how he would excel in this offense, I think it could be really, really special. And if the Vikings, do like Drake Maye that much, why would they risk it for him falling to 3? Because the Vikings already made this move with the Texans. They can't undo that move. Like, that's why I do believe the Vikings either had a handshake agreement with the Arizona Cardinals, Patriots, Chargers, or maybe it's this big-time haul coming to Washington and the Vikings can ensure themselves of getting Drake Maye. But before we get into more around Drake Maye, I just want to ask you guys this. Get the pulse of the fan base a little bit. Would you trade 3 first-round picks, 11, 23, and next year's first, if it 100% meant the Vikings were getting Drake Maye? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no down in the comment sections. I'll make this the pinned comment on today's video. Curious to see what you guys had to say because I posted a video the other day and it was a little bit of mixed feelings in the comment section. So 3 first-round picks, the 2 this year, the 1 next year. It ensures the Vikings get Drake Maye, though, whether it's number 2 or it's the 3rd pick in the draft, whatever it may be. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below. So I do want to end up today's show just talking about Drake Maye a little bit more because if I had to call it right now, Drake Maye won't only be drafted by the Vikings. I think he's going to start week 1 for Minnesota if I had to put money on it right now, and I think it's the right call. Listen, if you guys know or if you guys have been watching this channel a little bit, I'm a big fan of J.J. McCarthy. I think he's no doubt the 3rd best quarterback in this year's draft class, and I think he's going to have tremendous success in the NFL. But the reason I'm starting to lean Maye a little bit more than McCarthy, just for the Vikings fit specifically, is I think Drake Maye's got a ton of more boom or bust in his game, where it's like, like his cons to Maye's game are, his pocket presence isn't too well. He kind of gets happy feet in the pocket a little bit, and he just consistently throwing the football, like the intermediate, like the 5-yard out routes, just hitting a simple running back in the flat. He can get inaccurate, and consistency has definitely been an issue with Maye. But the positives of him are he can touch every blade of grass on the football field. He's a big body, 6'4", big arm. He has really solid mobility where he can get outside the pocket, and he's not the physical runner that Josh Allen is, but the dude's got wiggle outside, and he can put his shoulder down and run over a smaller member of the secondary if he really needs to. And why I think like a quarterback like that, who has, obviously some more glaring weaknesses in comparison to a guy like McCarthy, but he's also got some overall just positives that are just generational talent positives. And I think if you add him in this Viking system, the Viking system would almost just sandpaper his game a little bit. And not only just Kevin O'Connell. I think Kevin O'Connell would have a field day with a guy like Drake Maye, like really turning him into one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. But you would have a guy like Jefferson, to throw those 50-50 balls to. Obviously Jefferson creates more separation than any receiver in the NFL. Then you have a guy like Addison, great at creating separation. Just overall 2 great receivers. And then also TJ Hawkinson, just a safety net and just a safety blanket for a young quarterback. And then if they could ever figure out this damn running game under Kevin O'Connell, hopefully Aaron Jones does help that. I'm saying next season, if the Vikings go get Drake Maye, watch out for them being a playoff team next year. With him as a rookie quarterback. Because, the Vikings got better on defense this offseason. They added 3 studs defensively. I like their moves on offense. Like adding an Aaron Jones, I thought was key. And now you get a Drake Maye on a rookie deal, and then also set this up. The Vikings would be setting themselves up to really go on a Super Bowl run if Drake Maye obviously works out. Let's just say Drake Maye pops and he's, the next Herbert Allen or whatever. The Vikings would then have $150 million in cap space the following offseason where they could go spend it on whatever. Yes, you would be giving up that first-round pick. You wouldn't be able to use it, but you would have all this cap space. Obviously, a lot of that would have to go to Christian Darrisaw getting extended, Justin Jefferson obviously getting extended. But even if you give both them, let's just say 30, 20 mil a year, you still got $100 million left in the bank to spend on wherever you want. That could be adding an elite corner. That could be adding just, stacking up that defense for Brian Flores. I just think the Vikings are starting check a lot of boxes if they would go and get Drake Maye of what a Super Bowl team looks like. You need elite weapons. You need a young quarterback on a rookie deal that's extremely talented. You need a good head coach. I think we have one in Kevin O'Connell. You need a good defensive mind, whether it's D coordinator or if he's your head coach. You got that in Brian Flores. You need to be able to get to the quarterback. They just got Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel. You need 2 bookend tackles. We got that in Darisaw and Brian O'Neill. I just think heading into this offseason, a lot more Vikings fans were negative about it, and for right reason. I mean, I was kind of saying the Vikings are going to be no doubt the worst team in the division next season, but with just all these little moves that Kwesi's been making, and now we're kind of really setting ourselves up to, I really do believe we are going to, I'm going to say it right now, I believe this. The Vikings will trade up to number 2 overall in this year's upcoming draft, They will have the number 2 overall or number 2 pick because I believe it is Drake Maye or bust for that, or for them in that front office right now. They're going to do whatever it takes. So wanted to get that report out there. A big move is definitely coming, and the Vikings are interested in trading up with Commanders to land the number 2 pick in this year's draft. So thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys next time. Skol Vikes.